Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, spirits of all ages, welcome to the BlunderSpeaker Show. Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, spirits of all ages, welcome. Yes, we're here. It's finally time. It's episode 0, not 1. I was about to say episode 1. It's episode 0. My name is Tepid Goose. I am your host for this BlunderSpeaker Show. Brand new, spanking, shining, wonderful, all-encompassing, amazing thing that it is. Today is the 8th of January, 2025. The time locally is 17:36. That is 5:36 p.m. And my location is Ireland. So I am based in not quite Dublin, Ireland, just outside. Most people probably heard of Dublin, so I'm in a little sort of town just across the border in the next county over. And I am here to welcome you to my brand new show, BlunderSpeaker. For those fans of the show, you will probably, the name will be ringing a bell. ThunderSpeaker, of course, being one of the spirits from the game. One kind of my favorites, certainly originally, and I kind of came up with this concept, which is if I can sort of continue on and bring you on an introduction to the podcast. Before I get into me and sort of what I am and really what the whole thing is going to look like, I'm going to start off right at the beginning and talk about the format. Obviously, we're a Spirit Island show. I'm calling it a podcast, but this is an all-encompassing show, which we'll get onto later. But the whole sort of core concept here, and the reason I'm leaning into this sort of blunder speaker element, clearly the word blunder is referring to mistakes, right? And what, hopefully I won't be making too many of them, but the whole concept of the show here is that it is going to be a single take. One take, no edits, sort of semi-live. What you hear is what happened the first time. I'm not going to be doing sort of dry runs. I'm not going to be doing practices. I certainly won't be doing reruns. This is it. Every week, hopefully, ideally maybe once, maybe twice a week. We'll have to sort of figure that out as we go. I'm still new to this. I'm still sort of getting off the ground, and you'll have to bear with me a little bit as we get going in the first little while. But my intention with this is to sort of run this, every week, maybe once, maybe twice. We'll get onto what the format is going to look like. 30 to 60 minutes on this kind of podcast episode. Plus, we're going to get playthroughs in there as well. More on that later. But the whole idea is, this is me. It's my USP is that it's real, it's genuine, it's first time. You're gonna hear all the mistakes. You're not gonna get that cut out, because quite honestly, I actually just don't have the time in my life to do that. And I couldn't start this podcast or this show if I was gonna be going down that rabbit hole. I'll get onto that in a moment. But again, to kind of close out here, if you're listening to this right now, you're either a fan of the show or a fan of the game, should I say, and hopefully you're gonna stick around because you love Spirit Island, and you, like me, have been dying for another podcast or something else similar to what the guys on the KSP did, which again we'll speak at length about them again in the future. But that there's a sort of a podcast that existed before now that I love and so many others did. I'm sort of picking up the baton and the mantle just a little bit in terms of the world of podcasting in Spirit Island terms, and I want to just bring something that's me, and I've been sort of chomping at the bit a little bit to try to get something going, because the community and sort of all the integration and engagement that you have across the game has been amazing for me. So I want to set something up that's both conversational, fun, engaging on that sort of way, especially that the KSP did a huge amount of amazing work in that space, and also something which I would like to do that's, educational a little bit, around kind of teaching elements of things that I've picked up in the game, or hopefully at least, I've picked up in the game that are worth other people seeing and maybe learning from. So that's kind of the concept around here. It's going to live on YouTube. Everything's going to be consolidated on here. As I said, this is a kind of a two-part sort of thing, which I'll get into later, but I thought originally about it being audio medium and all of that, and just being a podcast. podcast, but clearly you're looking at me right now. This is a video, and that's what it's going to be. So given that it's video, YouTube is kind of the sort of default, the obvious one. So that's sort of the introduction. Hopefully you're still listening. If you're not a fan of the show, I think I did an A earlier on. We'll close that out with a B right now. If you're not a fan of the game, should I say, maybe you're going to be. Maybe you've stumbled across this somehow through the YouTube algorithm. Good work if that's the case. And if Spirit Island is something you've maybe heard about, or you're looking for a new game, and this is kind of something you see, hey, this podcast or this show, why don't I check this out? This game is amazing. There's so much in this. I'm starting this show for a reason. The breadth and the depth of this game is just it's astonishing, really. And there's something in there for everybody. So maybe stick around a little while. We're going to have an introduction episode today, so we're not getting into really the game at all. In fact, today is just a kind of let's get in here. Let's see what we're doing. Who am I? What's going on? Are you going to enjoy this? Is this for you? And hopefully in 30, maybe 60 minutes, however long today takes, we'll get people to understand what they can kind of expect from the show itself. Let's take a drink. Let's take a breath. Let's get on to me. So, Tepid Goose is my name. As I say, I am the host. I am the single host. There won't be multiple hosts on the show, as there are with many podcasts. I'd like for that to be the case, and certainly I would miss the engagement with others, but you're stuck with me for now. That's kind of what I got going on. It's a super busy life I have. I've got 3 young kids, busy, household work, wife started a business recently. It's been sort of chaos. So, I kind of wanted to somehow, in the midst of all of that, carve a little corner, so to speak, for myself, give myself an opportunity to kind of do something that's not just life, which is amazing, and don't get me wrong, I don't want to sort of talk about poor me or anything like that, but life, and it's been chaos for years, and this game has been my outlet for a long time, and I wanted to kind of lean into that a little bit. So you got me. This is who I am. But why do you care, right? Who am I? What do you want to know about me in that kind of short interview? Tell us about yourself sort of section. Let me give you one or two little basics that are kind of relevant towards what we're talking about here. I did mention I'm based in Ireland. That is because, or let's say for my accent, hopefully it's not too strong for people. I'm used to working in sort of international environments and working with a lot of people, maybe non-native speakers. So I have learned a little bit over time, or had to, or at least tried to, neutralize my accent a little bit. So you'll probably won't be getting the full Irish, the full Ireland, the full Dublin, so to speak, which is where I grew up. But yeah, you'll probably hear a little bit of that in there, I expect, and hopefully not too fast, because I have been known and told in the past quite a lot of times over the years to slow down. Especially when I'm presenting and so on, to breathe a little bit. Let a bit of space in the thing. So something I'm gonna have to get used to and remember as I'm going through this show. As I'm getting it off the ground, especially to remember and to learn to not go so crazy. We're excited, or at least I'm excited. Hopefully you're excited. Let's see. We'll see how that one goes. But I'm certainly crazy about what I'm talking about. This is something I'm very passionate about, and it's very easy to get carried away with that. And you'll probably hear me getting out of breath and blah 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 to the end of the sentence, and have to stop for a drink and all the rest. But that's a little bit sort of around my personality. My career itself, my background is kind of techie. I was a software developer and did some kind of other techie roles, analytical sort of data sort of type things. And so I've got sort of that background that gave me an interest in game design, as in a sense, although I'm not really a gamer. I'm a little bit more on that in a bit, but really more I've gone the kind of people route actually throughout my career, and now I'm a project manager. That sort of profile where I deal with people a lot, and actually that was one of the big draws to me of this game in general, and actually cooperative games, just working with people, that sort of camaraderie, and less about the conflict and you against me, and rather let's get together and figure it out together. So this game was perfect for me, and like I said, the community and everything else that came with it. So another one small note before we move on: I am a 0 to 100 kind of guy, and we'll talk about it with other things, but certainly with this and with this show, once I made the decision to go in, it was like, we're in. My wife hates me for this. She always goes crazy whenever I start something new because she's like shaking her head. She knows. It's just like, oh yeah, hey, I saw this new thing. I'm quite interested in whatever, or I've been watching some videos on this. This is quite interesting. And she's just like shaking her head going, a week from now, he's going to want to buy this. He's going to want to do this. He's going to want to go there. He's going to be all in, and he's just going to be completely invested in this thing. And it's entirely true. I tend to get very easily addicted to things that I like. I get very passionate about them, and I don't have that many sort of hobbies or interests, so to speak. I've got a couple, but I tend to be very invested in those few. And clearly this game is one of them. So once I decided podcast, it was like, okay, cool. I've got, a webcam on my laptop. I've got a headset that I use for work. I can probably use that, whatever. And I put it all together and tried a test run or whatever a couple of weeks back, and I was just like, awful resolution, terrible on the webcam. The audio, the sound coming out of the thing, awful. And I'm just like, no, okay, scratch that. Need to buy this, need to buy that, need to buy rigging equipment, need to buy lights, need to buy whatever. And actually, by the way, it's not a podcast at all. It's going to be a video, and we're going to need this, and we're going to need. So yeah, I've kind of gone a little bit 0 to a little bit 100 on this one, but we'll see. You need to bear with me as well. I would request. Clearly you can see here we've got the mic going. One piece of equipment I bought that I'm gonna need to sort of figure and tweak and adapt with over time. We've got, as I say, I've got some kind of rigging equipment coming in that's going to be used to kind of do recording on the playthrough sessions on the table, which we'll talk about later. And yeah, some kind of lights and different things. Regarding the filming and all the rest of it, we'll see how that goes. I think I've got something pretty good, but again, please do get involved in the chat. I talked about community integration, and I'll keep hammering that home. That is what this show is about. I'm going to encourage you nonstop. Whatever we're talking about in an episode, I'm going to be asking you to get involved in the comments, because I've seen a huge amount of it already on Reddit. And the other sort of community places and platforms that I've been in. That's what I want from you. So if you hear something, if the sound isn't good, if the video's not good, if the light and color correction's bad or whatever, absolutely feel free to jump in and make suggestions, offer advice, kick my ass in terms of something sounding crappy or whatever it is, or, if you've got some inputs, I'd be more than happy to hear them and do strongly invite those. Let's take a quick drink. A deep breath or two, and let's continue on. Okay, so introduction to Spirit Island in itself then. So how did I get into this game? I'm not a gamer. It's not my background. Growing up, I was more of a out on the street, climbing trees, kicking balls, eventually got into skateboarding, which has led me to being all crippled and falling apart in my mid to late 30s. So I was kind of one of those guys, not so much around video games or those type of things. As a kid, got a little bit more into it later on, but again, it was more like things like WWE video games or skateboarding video games, and later on then obviously, being into football, it was like the FIFA games and all those. So it was more games adjacent to what I would be doing as opposed to really just video games. I did a little bit like, the likes of GoldenEye or maybe some Halo 3 or a couple of those sort of platform shooters or whatever, but very little. Yeah, it kind of just was more later on then. I think I was somewhere through college. I think I was in my last year of college, doing, as I say, software development. That was kind of my computer science kind of direction. I was kind of half into it, not so much. I was just about getting there. And I'm over in a friend's house, and it's like lunchtime or whatever, and we're heading off for an hour back to one of the guys' places or whatever. And the guys take out their Magic the Gathering decks. And I knew they had been playing this thing for a couple of weeks, and they were like, "Hey, I'm going to play a game or whatever. That's fine." So they asked me, "Do you want to play? Do you want to learn how to play?" And I'm like, "No, it's cool. That's not my thing. That's not my jam. I have no real interest." And I'm like, 10, 15 minutes later, I'm kind of looking across the thing and I'm like, hey, that's pretty cool, actually. The artwork is nice. I'm kind of picking up the card and I'm like, yeah, that's pretty awesome, you know? Put that back down and, you know, another 5 or 10 minutes pass and I'm like, hey, this is kind of interesting, you know? There's some concepts going on here that despite not really being into games or strategy games or really knowing much of anything about what's happening, it's already piquing my interest. So fast forward about an hour, I'm already got the deck in my hands. I'm starting to learn. I'm learning the rules. We've forgotten about college. We're not going back there today, of course, because we've got this cool new game that I need to understand. So we're like, it's not quite 100, but we're at 0 to 40, at 50 at least. So it's like, okay, let's get in there. A couple of hours pass, I'm texting back at home, I'm telling them I'm not coming home for dinner, probably not coming home at all, I'll be home tomorrow, I'm staying over here, we got to learn this game, this is my life now. And it was literally just bam, 0, 100. College degree almost fell apart. I barely struggled over the end of it because it was just all in on Magic the Gathering. It's like, you know, 2 days later, we're into the city and I'm buying like all the decks, you know, starting out with the intro decks and all that. But of course, as the weeks are going by, it's let's tweak the intro stuff and the basic stuff and let's start understanding about how to actually, you know, optimize the game and all those kind of things. So ultimately, in the end, Magic became a massive part of my life. I got really invested in it, which is crazy because it just wasn't me at all, as I say. It was really pushing to try get onto the pro scene and everything. So didn't quite make it that far. I wasn't that good, and I didn't quite have the money to be able to keep investing and traveling to try to do that. But I did play on the world world championship team, I guess you call it, for Ireland. So I represented Ireland at the World Championships, which was pretty cool. And yeah, got some really good memories of that game. So that was like kind of me going from not a gamer, don't really know much or care much about it, to massively into games, and of course then learning all the sorts of things that go in and around that. So that was kind of the main entry point for me. Once Magic the Gathering kind of lost its luster after however many years I played it for, I've sort of put that to the side. It was costing too much. The community wasn't great, blah, blah, blah. And then I got into board games. And then board games was like, you know, a lot of the usual suspects, Terraforming Mars, Agricola, bought Twilight Imperium at one point, the big box about this big, put it on the thing, and we played for like 16 hours one day or something. Before my kids were born, of course, because that's not, you know, something that happens in real life anymore. But you know, so I've kind of been around the block a little bit on those, and you know, got a lot of kind of, you know, favored games, so to speak. But clearly here for me, Spirit Island, once I played that game, it was, we're done. This is it. This is the game. So yeah, I mean, look, I got into the game itself. Then we played a couple of games with my friends. I bought the box, we got it over, played like 2 games or whatever with my mates on game day, and then it was like, I'm in. But immediately, of course, 0, 100, etc. Online, yeah, give me all the expansions. Give me the token packs. Give me you see it over my shoulder here, the box, the broken token box, the whole lot. It was like however many hundreds I have, just give me all of it. So I was all in on that game, and very thankfully so. It did not go to waste. I use it all the time. So you know, that was quite nice. From there though, my friends either weren't that into the game, or to be honest, even more than that, it was that we just didn't really get to play because I don't have much time in my life for gaming, as I mentioned before. So it was like, what do I do with this game that I'm really into? I love it. I've bought all the stuff for it, but I can't get it to the table. And at this time, I didn't know really much about or really anything about the community at large. Of course, I just bought it and went online and maybe checked a couple of posts on BGG or something, but I didn't know of the whole community out there. And certainly at this time, I didn't know anything about the solo aspect of the game. It just so happens, as probably most of you would know if you're listening to this video, that I had stumbled upon inadvertently probably the single best, or arguably the single best solo board game ever made. And certainly for me, I haven't seen any other game or heard of any other game that would come close to it. So that was honestly nothing to do with why I bought the game, but I was just super lucky, because obviously from there I sort of found out about this whole aspect of solo play. And, you know, I ended up finding the solo playthroughs channel. Greg, if you're watching, love your content, mate. You're probably not, because I know you're super busy. You're a lawyer and all of that kind of stuff somehow. For anyone that didn't know, Greg is goofball. He's hilarious. If you know him, he's also apparently a lawyer, which makes no sense, but there we are. But yeah, found his content and I was just like, this is the coolest thing ever. Oh my God, wow. But again, it wasn't like immediately somehow, for me, I didn't click quite until I had watched maybe 3, maybe 4 episodes. It was just like this like eureka light bulb moment where I'm like, oh my God, I can do this. It was like, I can play this solo game. Why haven't I thought about ever playing games at home on my own? It just wasn't something I ever thought of. For me, playing games is like video games. You know, I thought of people at home with their Xbox or their PlayStation playing video games, which wasn't something I did. So again, this kind of mindset of I'm not a gamer, it's not sort of me, I don't have that background. It just wasn't obvious to me that getting a corner in my house, which is this room, my office, my sanctuary, this sort of at the time was here for work, right? I think, I guess it was during COVID, right? It was probably still during COVID when I bought this game first. And it was like, why don't I just set this up upstairs and try it, give it a try? I'll put it out. I might not be into it, but you know, hey, we'll see. And at this point, clearly we're 0 to at least 80 in the game. You know, that last 20% we can't quite find because there's nobody to play the game with, but I'm still all in. And it's like, bam, one game, get it on the table, and I'm done. That's it for me. I'm finished with life. Just let me play my game and leave me alone. So it was amazing. I was super into it. And honestly, this game somehow arguably plays better on your own than with people, which is insane. And some people will strongly disagree with me. If you do, please do get involved in the chat. Others, I think, may agree, because there's elements of this that work just so incredibly well. In your own head. And I don't mean true solo, one spirit. I'm talking about multiple spirits where you play 2, 3, 4, however many spirits on the table. And I absolutely adore that. And the interactions and the mechanics of what goes on in your head when you're doing that is something, I guess, so cathartic for me. Which gave me an out and it gave me a place to escape to. And again, I sound horribly dramatic saying escape because it sounds like my family are horrible and my wife is horrible and my life is horrible. Clearly, you know, it's not the case, right? But it's great to get away and, you know, switch off and give yourself that break and kind of put all of the daily life and the grind and the pressure and the stress to the side. Stick on a bit of music, whatever. Drink, snacks, that kind of thing, and get your game out and have a fantastic time. So it's been a wonderful thing for me on that front. Let me stop here, take a little drink. So that's the introduction to the game. After that, as I say, I had found the community, I had found Reddit, and I was starting to get more involved in community interaction. So, you know, posting on other people's things, but also making my own posts on the Spirit Island subreddit, which is where I'm most active of the kind of the Facebooks, the Board Game Geeks, the Discords. I'm kind of on all of them, but I don't really use them. I'll be posting there, and you may well have seen my post to link you to this video. I'll probably post on there a little bit to try get something going because I haven't really been a super active member of those communities so far. But the Reddit has been the place where I kind of, you know, found myself fitting in. You know, I started out with kind of posting things like, you know, just like fun game moments or combos that I found or, you know, a big epic win or whatever it may be. And I had quite a lot of fun and intrigue and interaction with those. And then came Nature Incarnate. And if you remember, I'm sure you will if you lived in Europe like I did, Nature Incarnate was a lot slower to us than it was for the rest of the world. So you had this global pandemic and you had this shipping crisis and you had all these kind of things going on. And we didn't get Nature Incarnate till months at least after it kind of, you know, it dropped in the US. So you kind of had this element of a lag where the game launched, it dropped, and there was this big, you know, hype and buzz around everybody at the start. But it was weird because the community was kind of in two halves. So you kind of had the other half of the community, he didn't get it yet, and they didn't get to play with it and all those kind of things. So you almost had two launches, which was a bit weird. So I came in on that second launch, and I got the box, and it had been a while, and sort of all the hype had died down almost, you know. I remember seeing the Discord, for example, when the game launched, had like all the kind of, you know, the new flashy Nature Incarnate stuff, and then they had kind of, you know, archived all of that stuff away, and it was kind of like, okay, you know, the buzz is gone, it's here now, but then we all got the content. So, you know, I kind of thought, well, okay, let's maybe see, I'll make a post here and see, like, this is super cool. I'm super pumped and I'm super excited about this. So what does everybody think? So I made a post, how do we feel about, and I can't remember what the first one I posted was. It might have been Deep's Ocean, or, well, I didn't really like that one, so I doubt I started with that one, but it was, I think, one of the aspects. And it got really good interaction, much more than I think the ones that I had posted previously on the channel. So there's quite a lot of people engaging with that, and that was great. And it was, again, you know, a few days past or whatever it was, try out some of the new content in the box, and it's like, okay, let's jump on the Reddit and see what people think. How do we feel about Hostility Keeper, or whether it was, maybe it was one of the new spirits, Breath of Darkness, or something like that. And again, lots of interaction. And I remember after maybe one or two or three, I even made a post, you know, in one of the, or made a comment in one of the posts saying like, hey, you know what, people keep interacting, I'm going to keep posting these, because, you know, it seems like clearly here there's a need, that people have a desire to, yeah, you know, I want to get in there, you know, I missed the first time. So people were clearly kind of jumping in, and it was great. And, you know, there was a kind of a buzz about it. So, or at least for me, I was very happy to be interacting with people on this. And yeah, this kind of, how do you feel about, or at the time it was how do we feel about, but how do you feel about sort of series, if I can call it that, you know, set of posts started to evolve over the last, I don't know, probably a year, maybe more. Maybe 18 months or something like that, and I've just been posting all of these things into the Reddit around just concepts of the game. So whether that's how do we feel about Spreader Rampant Green, or how do we feel about, you know, the adversaries, or a particular adversary, or scenarios, or how do we feel about you know, the Still Healthy Blight cards, which was a cool suggestion that somebody made. So it even started to get that element of people were coming in and going, hey, you know, next time why don't you do this? And clearly there were a lot of people who were coming in with like, you know, this is amazing. There was a lot of good feedback as well, not just here's what I think about the game, but man, I love your content, this is amazing, you know, this has been such a great buzz in the community. I might be slightly over exaggerating here, or maybe overselling the impact of what I've done, but you know, it was like there was a good positivity around those posts. And at one point then I decided, why don't I make this a podcast? Why don't I, or at least find a way for me to do more than just a set of characters, which is however long, in a post on Reddit. I'd like to really bring this to life that bit more and turn this into something where I can speak at length and, you know, talk about my opinions and, you know, again, invite the inputs of others and react to what other people are saying in a way that's a little bit more tangible and comes to life just more than with the lines of text that you see in a social media platform. So I got this idea and I'm like, man, I'd love to, you know, have a podcast. And again, of course, I was thinking about, can I do this with people? Are there people in the community who clearly there were, who were also sort of interested or had maybe tried this before? Kaelin is one who was, it was pinging me a little bit about this, and clearly he sort of had this in his mind, and there were others too. So I was chatting around with some people and things like that, but ultimately, as I say, life is just too crazy for me. It was never going to be realistic for me to turn this into a KSP 2 where it was like multiple people and all the investment that goes into the editing around that and the collaboration around that and kind of everything that would be involved. It just wasn't going to be realistic, as much as I would have liked it to, and as much as it would be great to have somebody sitting, you know, beside me here as a pal and chatting and getting the kind of interaction and camaraderie, which would be fantastic. It just was never going to be realistic. So I'm going to have to find a way way to bring that to life and bring a personality into here and bring the words and the inputs of others to life and bring them into this and make that community engagement that I mentioned before a huge and core part of this. And if I can do that, I will be, that's my sole intention with this. So it started with the how do you feel about. It's moved on a little bit from there, and to be honest, I'll probably put that one to bed right now. If you're watching this video right now, I'm intending in the past, my future, to make how do you feel about episode 1 probably the last one of those posts that I make, close it all out, put a little neat bow on it for now, and this is going to be my sole intention in the future. So thank you to everybody who's been involved in that. It's been amazing. It's been so much positivity and good feels and good vibes and all the rest of it. So let's take that on here. Let's get it off the Reddits. If you're on BGG or you're on the Facebook or Discords or wherever else that I'll be reaching out and trying to kind of engage people on, I'm going to bring it all in and I'm going to try to consolidate that into YouTube. For the simple reason that it's a lot easier. Clearly for me as well, there's an element of, well, let's get the engagement on the platform, which will hopefully further my reach and get more people seeing, the content if they're searching for YouTube or if they're searching for Spirit Island, should I say. But again, getting everybody into one place and commenting and reacting and getting all of that into the one comment section should, in theory at least, push that element of the community integration that bit more. So again, strongly encourage you, get involved. The comments are right there. How do you feel about all of that? How do you feel about what you've heard so far? Let's go. Let's get commenting. Last one I did, by the way, just make a little quick mention on it. In case you haven't seen it, I did write a volcano guide at one point. It's probably about a year ago now. I don't exactly remember how long. When we talk again about 0 to 100, there we go. I want to write a guide. It started off small. It ended up 50 pages long or something. It was God knows how many months of work, loads of testing, loads of theorizing and sort of hypothesizing and tweaking and all the rest of it. So, if you've never read it, I would love to hear your inputs if you have, or I'd love you to go and read it and come back and give your inputs. So again, I've had a huge amount of positive, sort of feedback and interaction around that one. So that was a lot of fun, albeit a lot of work. But I would love to, again, try make another guide in the future. If I'm going to do it, it's going to be Starlight, because I already started it. So I already did about 10 or whatever games testing towards the guide. So I was clearly testing concepts rather than just playing games. And it's going to be Starlight, and it's going to be B, the exact same thing again. So it'll be all in. It'll be like 50 games of testing, or however many I did for Volcano. It'll be testing different builds. It'll be putting it all together in terms of what are the builds, the packages, the growth paths, the cards, the drafting, sort of approaches, all of that sort of good stuff. So I would love to do that again, but to be honest, given that I'm starting this show right now, that's probably not something that's happening today or tomorrow. Okay, that brings us to this show in itself. The BlunderSpeaker Show. And I think where are we now? We're about 30 odd minutes in. Not too many blunders so far, which I'm quite happy to report. Let's see how long that lasts. But the show itself, right? So what am I trying to achieve with this show? Well, clearly it's a Spirit Island show, and there are many other people making or have made content in this space, which I have watched, consumed, thoroughly enjoyed, and want to take elements of. I'm going to mention a couple right now. This won't be the first time or probably the last time that I mentioned the couple people I'm going to mention here, but they have elements of their shows and their content they produce that I really, really like. So this will just give you a little bit of a flavor of what I've seen, and if you know these people or you know their content, give you an idea about what I'm trying to sort of achieve here. There's kind of two core facets, let's say, or there's two. It sounds way too businessy. There's two kind of there's a range, if you will, from entertainment to education around where I see content landing in this space. So clearly here, Kindred Spirit Podcast, what they made was very much on the entertainment end of the spectrum, I would say. And that's not to say they didn't educate either, but clearly they were pitching at that end of the scale. It's two guys, really good friends, clearly having a huge amount of fun with the game, doing a whole bunch of kind of meme stuff and joke stuff, and they were doing like voice acting and all sorts of kind of crazy abstract sort of things and all the rest of it. So they had a lot of fun with that, and that was kind of their main goal, their key aim with that. And they said it themselves a bunch of times. They weren't coming in as the experts. They didn't care. They didn't pretend to be, and that's not how they were acting. Their intent was to come with fun and have some education on the side, if I can sort of put words in their mouth. You also then, similarly, I would say, had Greg, as I mentioned, from Solo Playthroughs. Same sort of thing, but it's one guy rather than two, but a similar kind of vibe. Goofy kind of guy, having fun with it, not taking himself too seriously, getting his camera out and doing live playthroughs over the shot on the table of the in real life game. And I love that. The digital medium, not so much for me. I'll get to that in a moment, but the real life stuff, I loved it because that's what I know. I know the game, I know the pieces, I know what that looks like on a table, so I can relate to that. And again, Greg would have fun with it. He wasn't coming at that with I'm the best, or I'm maybe being a little extreme here, but like he wasn't coming with the you need to do as I say, or I'm the guy, follow me, this is the approach. It was, I'm going to get it to the table. I'm pretty good at this game. I've done a lot of testing. I know the game. I'm playing like level 6 adversaries and stuff, but I can win and I can lose. And I'm not going to like study the openings. Like he didn't come with like, hey, I need this bottom track build or this top track build. He very clearly actually avoided all of that, and he said it himself. It's like, I'm a guy having fun with the game. I'm not bad at it. You might learn some stuff from me, but I'm not here to educate. I'm here to entertain. So I really enjoyed that. Another guy then, sort of a little bit similarly in terms of the entertainment, but probably sliding more towards the middle maybe, was Whitebox. And probably may have seen less of I think Mitchell is his name. He had a baby, I think, around 6 or 8 months ago. So congrats, Mitch. But yeah, he had a little bit lower production. As I say, not quite as pushed in the community. Probably less people kind of maybe saw or heard of him. But I came across his content and absolutely loved it. And he didn't have all these big production values. Again, it was over the table kind of camera and all of that, but quite a simple setup. But again, he didn't sort of claim or profess to be something that he wasn't. He was a guy who, again, playing level 6 adversaries, very competent player, certainly, but he didn't come into the game saying, you need to do what I do, come and watch me. It was more like, I'm exploring this game. And again, I may win or I may lose, and I'm not fully sure what I'm doing here, but come along for the ride and let's see how we go, type of thing. And he was very honest with that approach, and I love that. It resonated extremely well with me. Super chill guy, so definitely on a different spectrum to Greg. He wasn't kind of goofy and crazy and all the rest. A lot more chill, a lot more relaxed, but totally enjoyed that as well. So a lot for me to learn from those three, kind of more on the entertainment end of the spectrum, I would say. Now, other end of the spectrum is the educational end of the spectrum. This, for me, I think two of the sort of premier or the kind of leading content creators that I've come across are Red Revenge, as probably most people would recognize the name, and Kaelin North, who I mentioned earlier in the show. And those two guys are creating also extremely good content, different, I would say, than the others. First of all, on the digital mediums for both of them, so they're very much on the digital app and tabletop simulator, I think, which Red did a lot of his content through, and very much on, let me educate you around this. Let me show you the strategies. Let me show you the openings. Let me show you, here's how I do this. Come along and watch what I do, and we'll get through, and I'll beat the adversary, and you can kind of learn how I did that, which is great. But it's a different approach, right? And I love that type of content, but to an extent, because when I play a game, I explore a game, I want to explore it for myself as well. So there's an element here of I want to watch what other people are doing in the space to learn, very much so, but I also don't want to be told exactly how to do it. And I certainly don't want to learn it, like as in learn it off by heart or learn the build and then go and do the build somebody showed me. So I didn't engage quite as much in that content as I did maybe in the other stuff. But I still did really enjoy it. And especially what Red's done with, like, he does a lot of kind of tier list videos and some kind of strategies around how to play spirits and some things like that. I found really enjoyable and really interesting, and clearly a very, very accomplished player, super fast. Watching his games a little bit more difficult for me because he plays so fast I can't quite keep up, especially with the digital medium and all the rest. I'm a bit lost in the interface, so I'm trying to kind of understand how the interface is working, and his turns are over. I'm like, man, I can't keep up that fast. So you'll see from me later on, we'll talk about that and you'll see that plenty. I am not a fast player. I was plagued by that when I played Magic the Gathering. I used to play slow control decks and I'd get hammered for not playing fast enough. That's something I'm going to have to learn quickly while in this show and doing my own recorded videos, and I will probably have to learn that the hard way. But for now, again, a little bit of a joke around that. Red and Kaelin both play much faster than I would be comfortable playing, even on the tabletop versus the digital stuff. So both did amazing content. Kaelin as well, it should be also mentioned, did some stuff around kind of extra kind of video and production values and some editing and some things like that, which I'll hopefully be able to bring into what I'm doing as well, because I've been learning kind of the softwares and learning kind of how to do video editing, and you probably seen with the intro, the outro and all that kind of stuff. So I really enjoy that. I like design, even though it's not really me or my career, but I've been trying to get into it a little bit. So it's been quite a bit of fun to get that stuff up and running. So that is sort of, as I say, from that sort of spectrum of education to entertainment and kind of conversational versus strategy versus sort of abstract and all of the kind of different dynamics that are going on there. I'm going to try to find a sweet spot within all of that. And it'll take a little bit of time, but hopefully if you're still listening right now, we're however long, 40 minutes in, we'll be wrapping this one up quite quickly. But, that's the intent that I have, and hopefully you'll be along for the ride. Okay. Last up. Actually, no, not last up. I had a couple of funny community inputs. So nobody was inputting into this particular episode, but a little while back, I did make a post into the Reddit to ask on people's inputs on what they would like to see in a podcast if ever one did come up. I had two funny quotes here. I just wanted to drop in because they are a little at odds maybe at what I'm trying to do, but let's see. So first up, Lure is the Cure. This again is on Reddit. If you do start your own podcast, my one suggestion, if possible, would be to have at least one co-host. In my opinion, there's something, there's something about people going back and forth and having a real conversation that is infinitely more appealing than one person in a room by themselves talking into a mic. I don't know what to tell you, my friend. You're probably not listening because you've probably given up. But if you still are here right now listening to this, thank you for your inputs. Hopefully I can, assuage, is that the word I'm looking for here, your concerns. Probably got that word way wrong. But yeah, hopefully I, have put a little bit of that to bed for you, and you can maybe, get past your issues and stick around. But yeah, otherwise we also had Kelderfall. I'm not sure exactly what it was, referring to the KSP, and why he didn't quite click with that. But my best guess is that it was a little too unstructured or informal for me. I guess I wanted it to be more of a show or even an organized presentation rather than just listening in on some guys talking about a topic, which again is fair enough. For me personally, if I had all the time in the world, I would be putting hours into this. I'd have a real detailed plan. I have some notes clearly here that I'm following for the show, but I would have a detailed plan. I'd have, like I said, I'd have this edited into the ground. I am an absolute perfectionist when it comes to things. You know, I'm the 0 to 100 guy, but I'm also the refined that 100th, the 99th and the 100th, percentile forever. Gold plating is the term, if anybody's familiar with it in technology and sort of software development, where you just keep making small adjustments for only minor, benefits or gains. And unfortunately, I've fallen into that trap for God knows how many years in my career with lots of things. But I knew coming into this project, if I didn't give myself some boundaries, I would take every episode and I'd refine it and I'd refine it and I'd edit it and I'd tweak it and I'd change it and I'd do this and I'd do that and I'd kind of, and it would take forever. And as I say, not an option for me. So I set those boundaries right off the bat and I said, that's it. Got giving myself one shot, one episode, one recording, no edits, one take, we're done. Get your intro, your outro, hopefully some sort of production values in the middle. We'll do some kind of flashy things and, we'll do one of them, kind of check this episode sort of stuff going on as I have more episodes, of course. But, in the meantime, as I'm going, give me a chance, right? I'm going to be getting those and probably adding them and tweaking those things as we go. But yeah, so that's kind of it regarding that. Last, I'm just going to give what's coming next. Give you an idea where we're moving from here. It's an ease in. So as I say, today was an introduction. If you're still with me, thank you for staying. What we're going to go through, and I did mention at the very top of the show, actually, that this was an episode 0. Why did I do that? And why have I structured it that way? Well, here's the way we're going to move going forward. So every episode, podcast episode, should I say, will be linked to a playthrough episode. So we've our sort of introduction, episode 0 right now, one and done, we're good. After that, we're getting into this cycle then where ideally every week, if I can, no promises, I will release one playthrough video, which will be a concept, usually, whether that's a spirit or spirits. Probably won't be true solo. I don't think I'll play too much true solo. Ideally, probably 2 spirits for time purposes, I would guess. And we'll be testing something, whether we're testing the spirit and it's a spotlight on them, whether it's, the adversary series, which I will certainly do, which covers eight adversaries. So that'll be, there you go, 8 episodes. Scenarios, whatever, right? Whole bunch of other different game modes or difficulty modules or whatever it's going to be. We'll be testing something, and then that will be linked to an episode which follows the next episode, that being the podcast episode. So you'll get that link. And this for me was a key eureka moment, again, if I can use that term, of how am I going to be able to convey for me what I want to say about this game and the things I'd like to, the knowledge I'd like to impart, if I may inflate my own ego, that little bit. To be able to show, well, hey, this cool thing came up in a game, but it's very hard to translate games I'm playing on my table on my own at home or off with my friends back into the show. So why don't I make the games I'm playing at home on my table the actual show? And then have this element of reflection and review, which, Greg did a bit of that as part of his show, and I used to really enjoy that, where at the end of a game, he'd kind of break it down, and he'd go, okay, I like this, I like that worked, that didn't, that card was good, that one maybe wasn't, here was a pivot point, if I had done X, or I had done Y, all that kind of stuff. So that's what I'm going to do. So next up, we've done our introduction, we're done, right? This is the welcome to me, welcome to the show, welcome to whatever. Next up, we're getting into the game. So if you've gotten this far and you don't know much or anything about Spirit Island, you've got a few days. Now's your chance. Get on wherever your board game, shop of choice is, and purchase the game. Local board game store, online, whatever it may be. Buy Spirit Island. Learn it. Watch your YouTube videos, read the books, all the rest of it. Get in, because we're going to be in next, and it's going to be playthrough 1. It's going to be playthrough 1, episode 1, going to be linked, and this is going to be a sort of introduction package around the first 2 episodes, but introduction to the game, not to me. So what is our playthrough going to look like? Well, for me, it was quite difficult to say, how can I put myself back to an introduction mode, so to speak? clearly I've been playing the game quite a while. If I think I'm here to be able to teach you something about the game, I ought to have quite a big ego and quite a lot of arrogance. But I also quite, ought to be able to play this game and feel like, I'm not too bad at it. So it's quite difficult for me to just put sort of difficulty 0, stick it on the table, and let's play, and you can learn something, because it won't really convey the same concepts, I would say. So I sort of came up with a different approach to put me totally out of my comfort zone and put me almost back into the mindset of this is what it looks like and this is how it plays like to be a new player again. And actually, quite recently, I was thinking to myself, and again, I posted this on the Reddit somewhere, that I've been getting way too caught up on extreme difficulty in this game, which, if you know my name or you've heard some of my content before, I've talked quite a lot about 6-6 play, which is double 6 adversaries and so on. That's a game mode I enjoy. I love the extreme mode in this game, but I've got a bit too caught up in all of that recently. The game has almost not stopped being fun, but it became hard work. My most recent game that I got a victory in was Finder, Fractured, and Sun. It was a 6-6 game, and oh my god, it nearly broke me. So I got to the end of that, and I'm like, this was such a hard slog, but it almost wasn't fun. It was like a really, not just a maths problem, it was like a super detailed astrophysics problem type of maths problem. It was crazy. So I said to myself, I want to step out of that. I want to get back a little bit. I want to get back to fun. And I want to get out of the mindset of push it as hard as possible and let's try some other things. So again, I'm going all the way around the houses here. That's unlike me. You'll come to learn. But what I'm going to do here, I've got a game that I think is going to put me way outside my comfort zone. And it's also all things that I have never done in this game. Some of this is a little bit strange, but there you go. I've played 179 games, I think it is, tracked in my tracker, plus about 3 or 4 or 5 before I started tracking. So that's how many games I've played, and none of those have included any of the things I'm about to tell you. First up, Base Earth and Base Shadows. Never played either Spirit in their base form, which is kind of crazy, but there you go. So that could be quite interesting. Next up, Power Progression cards. Remember those? Those things you take out, maybe play once and throw in the bin? Yeah, I know. I never played them. I never used them either. So we just jumped straight into drafting because, we were kind of experienced gamers by this stage and we never used them. But the Power Progression cards in secret, right? So I actually have them here. What I've done is, so if you see, I've got some opaque sleeves. I found the Power Progression cards I had thrown in the back of a box somewhere. I put them in backwards in here. I don't know what's written on these cards. I caught a glimpse accidentally of the Earth one, and I'm pretty sure I saw there were 2 minors and then a major. So it's a list of about however many, 8-9 cards or something. So I think it starts with 2 minors and then major, but I've no clue, and I don't know for Shadows, and I don't want to know. So clearly, do not post in the comments what's written on these for me, please, because this should remain a secret. So that's going to give me an element of way out of my comfort zone because I can't draft anymore. I have to draft what's written on these. Now, if I knew what's written on these, that makes the game a lot easier for me, but not knowing what's written on these probably makes it quite a bit harder, I would expect. So I'm around about a difficulty 1 or so on these things, because I was kind of just the best guess on that one. Then I'm adding in, so that's got us up to the third element. I'm also adding in Blitz. Difficulty 0 apparently, so we'll keep it at difficulty 0. Never played it. So if we're talking about new intro to the game, fast, slow, all of that crazy stuff that's going on, let's reverse the dynamic and get me out of my comfort zone and put me all into Blitz and everything fast and all the rest of it. So that'll really throw me. Extra island board. I've never done it. Somehow I've been meaning to do that for quite a while now, so should be about a difficulty 2 to 4. I think we're going to hit about 3. We're going to hit about in the middle because the last thing we're adding to this is Brandenburg Prussia level 3. which is about a difficulty 6. And I've never played Brandenburg Prussia 3. I actually checked my stats. I started with BP4. It was the very first version of them that I played, and then went 4, 5, 6 or whatever, but I never took any of the earlier ones. So these are all things I've never done in this game. Admittedly, BP3 is just an easier version of that, so that's not crazy. But again, add all of that up, and we're hitting a difficulty, I think, of around about 10-ish. So sort of difficulty wise, I think that, if I play a normal diff 10, just like a Scotland or something, a Scotland 6, I will win more often than not for sure, based on my experience. But this particular difficulty 10, I think I'm going to be in trouble, because an extra island board with the minimal or the poor action economy of especially Earth, but also Shadows. And even apparently Blitz adds extra explorers, so even Shadows innate, which is what usually is not too bad into Brandenburg Prussia, that's not going to work either. So I have a feeling I'm going to get trounced pretty badly by that one, but I kind of wanted that. I kind of wanted a game mode or something which I would be more likely to lose than win. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to follow up, as I say, off the back of that with an episode 1. Excuse me. Several days after, I'll have to check the times. Can't commit to it right now, and I'm going away this weekend, so it complicates things a little bit, but we'll see where we are. And that's going to be, again, introduction to the game itself, and I'm going to start going through some stuff like kind of theme, gameplay, solo mode, sort of ways to play the game, like the modules, the modifiers, things like that. And of course, we'll go through the playthrough and we'll talk about what we saw, maybe go through some concepts around that if we came up with anything interesting as well. So that's going to be it. That's the playthrough 1. That's the episode 1. Keep an eye out for them. But for now, guys, that's going to be it. We're going to close it out now. Again, encourage you all, get involved and get involved in the chat. What was your introduction to the game, right? This is what mine is going to look like now. And I remember what it looked like all the way back then. What did your introduction to the game look like? You got any cool stories, any kind of, big epic games that you played or anything interesting to add? Be more than happy to hear them in the comments. So please do get involved. I'll be involved in there and getting back to people, of course. And please do, I haven't mentioned it so far, but if you've been here, you've listened, and you've made it to this point, please do subscribe to the channel. Like, subscribe, put on the notification bell, share it with your friends, do all that kind of fancy stuff, because I'm really trying to get the thing off the ground, get my name out there, get people involved, and really bring sort of something which I hope is going to be really amazing to the community. And it won't work without you. I can't sit here and stare at that wall and do this for God knows how many episodes without the interaction. That's how this thing will live and die. So, that's what it's going to be. Really appreciate you staying here until now. And yeah, let's see, looking forward to the next one. But until then, may your manifestations be always powerful and glorious. See you next time.